classes. And oh, by the way, we'll probably have some in March and April and May. It's the one story that has been consistent within our metrics is that our listings are an opportunity for us. And it's our job as market center leaders to identify those opportunities and help you with them to overcome your obstacles, make you better equipped to be just that much better of an agent and make more money, right? We're all in this business not for fun, but to make some money. And
Mhm.
it's proven that listings will definitely pad your pocketbook a heck of a lot better and quicker than the buy side will. So we just feel compelled to keep giving you some great listing classes. So today we've asked Matt Grander to join and spend about an hour and a half with us on using his expertise around listings and see if we can't pick up some nuggets of knowledge here. So with that, Matt, I'm going to turn it over to you and thank you for your time.
Well, you're more than welcome. Rick and Ginger, thank you so much for asking me to be part of your Zoom and your training. I'm going to maybe share a little bit about who I am, how long I've been with KW and all that stuff, just so you sort of have a flavor of who I am. But before I do that, I'm going to tell you that when I joined KW 5 years ago, I got a MAPS coach. And the first thing she said to me in the first minute is, Matt, you are going to be a powerful listing agent. And honest to God, if you ask me today what I am, that is what I am. And it's something I talk about with our team. I tell myself that every day. I say it every time before I walk in to see somebody, because it is so important. And Rick, you said it really well. And by the way, if anybody has questions, ask them all. My transparency is 100%. There's nothing I can share with you that isn't going to help me more than it's going to help you by even talking about it and saying it. There is no competition. I don't care if it's in Naperville or Edwardsville. There is no competition. We're here to help each other. So I am an open book. I will share anything you ask me about what I do and how I do it. Okay. So let me tell you a little quick bio about who I am and how I got into real estate. So I was a manufacturing guy for a long time. My personality profile is I'm a high D, high C. So I'm not a high I, which a lot of people are, which is not bad or good, but I'm not a chatty Cathy. Like, I'm not really sociable. I don't walk in a room and want to talk to everybody. I like to have a few friends. So like when I talk about creating a sales business, you don't have to be one type of person. You don't have to be a high I or a high D or whatever you are. But I'm very much an operations person. So, but sales is a part of running a business. So I owned a manufacturing company. I sold it in 2007. I didn't work for a year and a half. I took a little time off. And then I decided, ooh, what am I going to do when I grow up? And I started to, when I sold the company, I had a little bit of money. So I started buying investment properties. And I bought a lot of REOs, a lot of bank-owned properties, because it was 2008, 2009. I just got real lucky in terms of timing. So I bought a lot of homes. I fixed them up. I did the work myself a little bit, and then I hired other people to help me. And then all of a sudden I figured out, I'm like, wait a minute. I don't want to go back into manufacturing. My mom was a real estate agent, and she was one of 4 managing brokers at a company called Weichert in the Northeast when they owned their own companies. And she worked for Bill Weichert, and she was, like I said, she ran one of the most successful real estate companies in New Jersey. And she was one of 4 women managing brokers. Like, can you imagine that? Like, how things have changed. So I thought to myself, what am I going to do? And I thought, this bar in REO, Ginger and Jeb will agree with me if Jeb was on the call, the bar is very low. There's not a lot of professionalism in that industry. So I thought, you know what, I can do this. So I got my license and I went to work every day. I want you to hear what I just said here. I went to work every day at a company called Prudential, that's now Berkshire Hathaway. And I went to work every day for 8 months. And I'm really proud to tell you what I sold in my first 8 months. 0. Okay. I had 0 sales. So I don't care if you're on this call and you're like, hey, I'm brand new and I haven't sold anything. So I can't relate with what you're telling me, Matt. You can relate because I didn't sell anything for 8 months, but I was lead generating for banks and Fannie Mae and other places. And finally, I got on with Fannie Mae, and fast forward 3 years later, and I was the #1 REO broker in the Chicago suburbs. We sold about 190 houses in a year's time. So I learned the real estate industry through doing foreclosures and REO, which was really a blessing because you see the good, bad, and the ugly, but you learn really quickly, okay? And you're gonna laugh when I tell you this, but this is a true story. I was so busy listing homes and fixing them up and selling them that the phone would ring and they go, hey, uh, can you show me this house? I go, nope, don't have time. Good luck, find an agent. Like I can't believe I did that, but I did it. Um, but so I did that business for a while, and then all of a sudden I got a call one day from a guy named Bob Backus, who is a great agent. He works for the Ben Kinney organization. And he said, Matt, I like the way you do business. You saved a deal for me. Let's have lunch. He was lead generating for downline. I really appreciate it. And he was very sincere. So I met with him for lunch. I went to Mega Camp. He bought me the Red Book in a spiral bound edition. Anybody have the spiral bound edition? That's the one I'm talking about. That's the one you can go to really quickly. And he said, Matt, if you read this book, I know you don't want to be an REO forever. If you read this book, it'll change your life. And I went, okay, I'll read the book. So fast forward about a year, I couldn't take it anymore. I was with a Berkshire Hathaway company, and they had 19 real estate agents in the office. And I was selling about 70% of what the whole office sold. So I had nobody to collaborate with. I had nobody to talk to about the listing presentation and how to negotiate and all these things. I just didn't have that. And I saw that Keller Williams had a different culture of sharing, and anything you wanted to know, you could ask somebody. And that's why I am the way I am today, is because people did that for me when I joined Keller Williams. They said, who do you need for marketing? Who do you need for brochures? Who do you need for anything? And then I went to a bunch of listing presentation classes, just like you're going to, and I learned a lot. So I'm going to fast forward. I've been with Keller Williams for 6 years now. Last year, our team sold 168 properties. None of them are REOs. They're all residential property. I'm also an investor in a couple of market centers. And I've, like Rick and I were talking earlier, I started 2 title companies in the last 3 years. So the opportunity that this company has afforded me has changed my life. And I know it can do the same thing for everybody here, because I say I'm not special. I work hard. That's what's special about me, but I'm not overly smart. I just do one thing. I follow systems and models, and I'm really good at it. So, and what I mean by that is, if anybody on this call hasn't read the Red Book, I ask you, go back to it. Read that book for the first time. I've read it 9 times. My partner that's a lender, his name is Todd Gosden at Compass Mortgage, he's read the book 22 times. He's done the book club for our team. He and I talk about it all the time. It's just one of those things where if you're creative, don't be. It's been documented by tens of thousands of real estate agents. Just do what it tells you to do. And honestly, if I tell you my claim to fame in real estate, it's because I just follow what the Red Book tells me to do. And I'm going to say it because I can't ever get on a training class and not say this, because it hurts me too bad. There's only 3 things you got to do in real estate. 1, L, lead generate. You have to lead generate every single day. 2, you lead with listings. Did I say you lead with buyers, Rick? No, he didn't say I lead with buyers. And 3, once you get so dang busy, you have to put great people around you that can get you to a higher level, okay? So I remind myself of that of every single day, that those 3 L's are the only thing that matters in real estate. Do you agree with me, Ginger? Okay, just checking, making sure you're with me on this one. So, so in terms of the listing presentation, I'm going to share with you every detail of what I do. I'm not going to give you the presentation because I want to explain, because there's more about the listing presentation that happens before and after than actually happens during. Okay, it's like I just painted, I own a house in Charleston, South Carolina. I just painted the basement because I'm a car guy. I like a really nice garage. So I'm painting the garage, and it dawned on me. I'm like, wow, painting the garage is just like selling real estate. 80% is in the prep and getting ready for it. 20% is actually showing up and being prepared and being relaxed enough to do a really great job. You guys buy in on that? Yep. So what I want to do is I want to tell you where my mindset is about the listing presentation. And it's going to kind of, I use some stuff from like when I was a kid that it works till this day. Is when I grew up in New Jersey, I was a baseball player. And I played from the time I was 6 until I was 18 and went to college. I didn't play after that. But my senior year of high school, I'll never forget this. I stepped up to the plate a lot of times, and I only hit the ball, like this is embarrassing, half the time. 50% of the time I hit the ball and got on base. So my batting percentage was 500. But every time I stood in the on deck box, I knew I was going to hit the ball. I knew I was going to be successful. It was a mindset. Now, I told you that I wasn't that good. I only hit the ball half the time. I was an all-state baseball player in the state of New Jersey, which means I was the best player in the state of New Jersey that played first base and pitched, and I failed half the time. Okay, I want you guys to get this in your mind about the listing presentation, because people look at me and they go, hey, how can you sell 160, almost 200 properties a year on the listing side? And I go, because I fail more than you do. I step up to the plate a lot, and I'm not always a winner, I promise you. And in the beginning, I lost more than I won. And the more I did, the better I got. And the more comfortable I got, the more I figured out that I needed a wall of value to share with my clients so that I won more. But what I'm going to tell you is, this isn't a business of just making 1 or 2 appointments a year to your friends and family that you're going to get. This is a business about having your database tight so that you 36 touch your database. But the real gold in this business is meeting people that you don't know, that don't know you, and having a wall of value when you sit down with them and you have a plan that is so good that they're like, I can't list with anybody else. I have to list with Ginger, or I have to list with David or Brandy or Tony or Samantha. I just have to list with them because they know what they're doing. Okay. So I want you kind of just to know my mindset with that. Okay. And then when I got into real estate, I was lucky. I didn't work with buyers. I worked REO, so I was only selling properties. Okay. So I didn't really have a really good understanding of buyers until I started doing it a little bit. And I'll tell you today, I don't work with buyers. I have 2 buyers agents on our team. And the reason being is I don't have enough time. And that's clear and simple. And the Red Book tells us if you work with 1 seller or 3 sellers, how many buyers can you work with that take the same amount of time? Anybody remember? I think it's 3. I think it's a 3-to-1 ratio. And when somebody told me it takes 3 times as much time to work with buyers as it does with sellers, I went, wait a minute. You mean I'm going to make 3 times more money working with listings? I'm going to have 2/3 more time for my family and things that are more important versus, putting people in a car and running them all over the place. I'm not saying buyers aren't important. They're very important. But I'm just telling you from a standpoint of building your own business, lead with listings. Right, Rick?
That's right.
Lead with listings, and then take care of the buyers, and then leverage out the buy side as you can as you get bigger in your business. Okay, does that make sense to everybody?
Yeah, and Matt, if I could chime in too, guys, as you're taking notes, if there's anything that Matt throws out there that you need better clarification on, like a 36 touch, and you don't know how to do that, make a note. And that's a perfect time to set an appointment with Kate or with Barry, whoever, is kind of your mentor. And we can teach you how to use these tools that he's talking about, should something be a little bit unfamiliar to you.
Yep. Yep, that sounds good. And at the end, Rick, if anybody wants to ask anything, again, I'll answer anything I can. So what I'm going to share with you about the listing appointment, and I'm an old fella. I'm 55 years old. My mom was a real estate agent. I'm an agent for the last 12 or so years. And my son, who's 25 years old, is also a listing specialist on our team. So a lot of you are sitting there going, oh, well, you've done this or done that, and that's how you can be a good listing specialist. Well, I'm going to tell you a funny story that's really not that funny. And that is, my son got a degree in finance and got a job with Boeing in Seattle. And I brought him, very strategically, I brought him to Mega Camp out in California. And I said, hey, I want you to listen to Gary Keller and listen to his view about the real estate industry. Just because he's an interesting guy and you're a finance guy, you're going to like what he talks about. A month later, and I promise you, I really wasn't lead generating, even though I did and I didn't know it. A month later, he goes, Pops, I want to talk about coming into real estate and forgetting about the corporate track. And I went, okay. So you're going to start as an ISA, you're going to lead generate. He did it for a year. And then I'm going to throw you on the buyer's side just so you understand what that's about. But really, your personality is more like mine. I'm not a great buyer's agent because I'm not very patient. But I said, I'm going to bring you over to the listing side. So in his first full year, which is 2020, he closed 42 deals on the listing side. He's 25 years old. He doesn't know anything about real estate. But what I told him is, you learn your scripts, you learn your dialogues, you do the same thing on every listing appointment, and we practice it, and you shadow me, I shadow you, and eventually you're going to get good at this. So every week, he makes between 4 and 10 listing appointments. It's hard not to get good when you keep doing something over and over. But what I'm telling you is he had no experience in real estate. Yes, he's a smart kid, that's fine, but he had no experience. He's 25 years old. Anybody have a 25-year-old and know how much they know in the world? Yeah, it's kind of small at that time, right? It really is. So, but what we did is we practiced, and everything that I'm going to share with you is what he does on the listing presentation, because he and I do the same thing at every listing presentation. Okay. So let me think if there's anything else I want to share. Anybody read the One Thing book on this? Yep. Good. Well, I'm going to tell you, I have this, I just painted something the other day. I like to paint, I don't know why. So I was painting something in my garage and I saw Gary Keller's thing, and I'm not going to memorize it, but I got it internalized. And that is, if you do one thing really well, everything else will be unnecessary and unneeded. Close enough? That's me taking a listing. If I take enough listings in my world, nothing else matters. Nothing. Okay. So when I think about what my one thing is as a rainmaker of my team, yes, I create the vision for the team and I hold people accountable. Those are my 2 jobs. But my main job is I'm the lead listing specialist. And my job is to help people that want to sell their homes get from where they're at to where they want to go. Okay. That's who I am. Okay. And by the way, all of you can make a great living selling a lot of listings, and you know it's true. And some of you already are, but some of you are on the cusp of doing that. Okay. So let's talk about what I do in terms of going on a listing presentation. So let me see if I can share this real quick. See what I can do. Yeah. Okay. There we go. You guys see this?
Not yet, Matt. It was up and then it went away.
All right, cool. Let me figure out one more time. Yep. Can you see it now?
We got you.
All right, cool. So I want to go back, and this is the boring part. This is the part that is the most important, but most people don't give it enough credence. What they'll do is they'll find somebody that they talk to on the phone that calls in, and they'll run out to their house and they'll start their listing pitch without doing the hard work. So this is the pre-qualification form that we fill out every single time. I do it if I make my own appointment. I do have a couple of ISAs, that's inside salespeople that schedule appointments. I'm sure everybody may or may not know what that is, but I have people that are licensed agents that are setting appointments for our team. And every single time, now, again, I'm not creative. I'm not going to come up with something new. This is what Diana Kokoska came up with for her bold class. So I use this 100% of the time. Why? Because it's the most important information to ascertain if somebody's really serious about selling their home. Okay. Now, I have filled this out so many times that I have it memorized. I can go backwards, forwards, upside down. and backwards. But what I want to tell you before you run out and go see somebody, if you walk in and see somebody and you're really prepared and really professional, they're going to see it really quickly that you understand their situation. So this sounds a little redundant, but I don't want to do this in front of a client. I want to do it before I walk in. Okay. So the first thing is motivation. Motivation, and Gary Keller says it very succinctly. He's never made anybody buy or sell a house ever in his real estate career. We don't sell people on selling their house. They either want to or they don't. And it's our job as a professional salesperson to ascertain, are they really motivated? Okay. So these are the questions we ask every single time. And again, Ginger, I'm sure you can get this to everybody in your office because it's kind of common information, this pre-qual sheet. But this is a form that they came up with after like tens of thousands of people put input on what's important about the listing presentation. So I'm not making this up. This isn't Matt Grander's. This is Keller Williams that they figured out a long time ago. I just follow it. Okay. So the first thing is motivation. Like, where are you going? Why is it important to you? From 1 to 10, how motivated are you to sell your house? If somebody gives us a 3 or a 4, I'm not going on the appointment. They're not ready. They're not selling their house. If they say, oh no, my husband just got a job in St. Louis and we're moving, that's a 10. Okay, so you have to know the motivation before that happens. Now, go down to financials.
Hey,
Or, yeah,
Matt, can I ask a question?
yeah,
So if someone did truly say, I have a motivation of 3 or 4, and you
yeah.
don't want to take the appointment, what does that script look like with you and that client at that point?
It usually looks like, hey, it sounds like you're thinking about it. What we're going to do, and that's called a nurture, by the way. So I'm going to put them into a 36 touch. That means I'm going to touch them 36 times a year so that they remember who we are when they are ready to sell their house. But what we're going to say at that point is, hey, if you're not really ready, our job is not to convince you to sell your house. When you're ready, we're going to be here for you. So we're going to send you some information about our team. We're going to keep you updated on what's happening in the market. And when you're ready, you'll either call us or we'll be calling you. So either way, it'll work out fine. And I call that a hot nurture or a warm nurture for that matter.
Got it.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks.
So again, now it doesn't have to be a script. Like when I talk to people about this, and I've done this 1,000 times. I mean, how easy when you're talking to somebody that doesn't know you on the phone, when you start asking them hard questions, they don't open up right away. So you have to kind of ease into it. And you say, well, tell me about your house. Tell me about where you live. How many square feet is it? How many bedrooms? How many bathrooms? I'm not looking at it. I'm just saying this off the top of my head because I have it memorized. What's the age of the house? Tell me what you've done to the house. Tell me how you would rate your house. By the way, this is an important question. How do you rate your house from 0 to 10? 0 is it needs to be bulldozed because it's a mess. And 10 means that it's the Taj Mahal. Okay. So I ask people that question. I ask them, I want to see how realistic they are because there's not all the people in the world aren't always that realistic. So you can take a look at a past listing and the house looks like it's leaning sideways and they tell you it's the Taj Mahal. You go, uh-oh, we might have a problem with reality here about what is real and what isn't. The reason you're asking that question is you're trying to ascertain, these people have a good idea what's going on with their house or don't they? And by the way, don't forget this, financials. You don't want to lead and say, what do you owe in your house? People aren't going to tell you right away. You start asking about the house, about their motivation, about what's important to them. And then a lot of times we'll just hit them at the end. What do you think it's worth in this market? Again, I'm trying to find out if they're realistic. If I ask somebody on the phone, what do you think your house is worth? Well, I bought it in 2007 for $1 million. And I know it's in a town that hasn't come back. And they go, we want to sell it for 1.5 because we've owned it a long time. I know that they're not in the real world. Okay, so I got to ask them that question. Also, you have to ask people, what do you owe on the property? I mean, we're in a time of forbearance and a lot of things are happening. You got to know if people are upside down on their property. You can get all excited to list a property, but if somebody's upside down, you better start talking about a short sale or about another alternative. So again, are you up to date on the payments? Sounds like a weird question. It's not one that I like to lead with, but once you get people talking, They'll tell you a lot of this, okay? And then this is something that's really, really important, okay? Ask people what they want and then give them what they want. So what are the 3 things you expect in your agent? People tell me all kinds of stuff. I want marketing. I want presentation. I want track record. I want honesty. I want somebody that communicates with me, because my last agent never communicated with me. And then the last question is, and I'm going to tell this to you because this is really important. When you meet with me, or when they say somebody else, if everything makes sense and you feel comfortable and confident that we can get your house sold, are you willing to move forward? If everything sounds right, yes. No, 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 no. We're not moving until next year. You misunderstood. Oh, like, you see where that's going? Like, you're almost trying to get a little bit of agreement before you go out to see them. Okay. And then one thing I will tell you, I'm going to unshare this for a second, is what I learned when I was 24. I was working for a small company, and they said, Matt, we're going to give you a car, and we are going to send you out as an outside salesperson. You're not going to be inside sales anymore. And I remember it like it was today, because I just thought about it before I got on the call, is this gentleman, Dick Virtue, who went to the Naval Academy, who was very structured, said to me, Matt, I'm giving you the keys to this car, and I want you to understand that you are a professional salesperson. You are not a professional visitor. And I go, what does that mean? He goes, when you meet with people that need your help, ask for the commitment, ask for the order, okay? We're going to talk about a lot of stuff on the listing presentation, but I promise you, I don't care what you do on the presentation, if you don't ask for the order at the end, you will not get it, okay? So I asked 2 people when I was getting coffee this morning that are seasoned ALC members. I said, hey, I'm on a listing presentation class today. What's the one thing I should share with everybody on the class? They go, ask for the order. And I thought, oh, so I'm going to say it a couple of times. Like, it's really important. We all do it differently, but we all have to find our own, like, what works for us. So what works for me doesn't work for Ginger. And just as an example, we all have scripts, don't we? So Ginger, do you have any other questions about anything we talked about? No? Okay, Ginger, I have one question for you. Are you ready to move forward and get your house on the market right away? That's what I do. Sometimes I don't say, put your house on the market. Are you ready to move forward and go through the paperwork? I'm asking because I don't care if they say no. I either want yes or no, I'm not ready because, or I have an objection that you haven't handled. That's all I want. So don't forget, everything we talk about, if you don't ask for the order, and it's not that comfortable when you're first starting out, it's not easy, but you have to ask for the order at the end of every listing presentation. You got that? Okay. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share something with you. Let me see if I can get to it real quick. I can get to it real quick. Can you guys see this? Can you see this all right? Yeah. All right. I'm going to share my listing presentation with you. This is, see, it goes on the top right here. I go through 3 things. By the way, this isn't optional. This is what I do every time I go on a listing presentation. I do the prep work. I have the pre-qualification form filled out. And then I prepare 3 different things to talk about. And I'm going to share that with you in a bit of detail, okay? Do you see how it says up on this? M&M Digital is a company that I started 3 years ago. It's Matterport technology. And it works so well for my team that I sell this to other real estate agents, not in Edwardsville, but it doesn't matter. I'm going to share this with you so that you kind of start to see my wall of value. Everybody's wall of value for why they list with you is different, but this is part of my wall of value. But so I'm going to, every time I walk into a listing presentation, the first thing I do, I walk through the door, I introduce myself, I tell them that I'm early, that we had an appointment at 3 o'clock. Thanks for having me. It's very much the Diana Kokoska bold listing presentation. That's how I start every time. They always ask me, do you want to see the house? Yes, I do. But if we could sit and talk for a little bit, I want to go over some details about your property before I look at the house. Is that okay? I'm controlling the listing presentation. You're not controlling it. This is my presentation. I've done it 1,000 times. You've only done it maybe once or twice or 3 times in your life in terms of if you're selling a house, okay? So my first job is to get to the kitchen table and sit down and always find some sort of common ground. You've asked them a lot of questions. You know what their motivation is. Oh, so you're moving to St. Louis. Tell me what's bringing you there. And get them to start to talk. Now you control the listing presentation. They're not controlling it, okay? Once you go through, and by the way, that green sheet that I have, even though they've told that to me a week before or a day before, there's a few questions that I need answered. So I'm going to go back through there about their motivation, about what they're looking for in an agent. And then I'm going to share with them, thanks for sharing the detail. So what I want to do today is 3 things. I want to share how important presentation is in today's environment with electronics and COVID. I want to share our marketing plan. And by the way, a marketing plan for a professional agent, people that don't have them, that's an amateur. People that have a marketing plan, that's a professional. And I'm going to share how we market your home. And then last but not least, we're going to talk about pricing, because everything we do, if it's not priced properly, we will not sell the home. See, that says, there's a quote from the guy that runs our marketing company. See how it says there? 3 things. I wasn't looking at it when I said this: presentation, marketing, and pricing. During the presentation, I would like to take a walk through the home, and I'd like to view it through the eyes of a buyer. So unfortunately, if you go with me, I'm going to see it through the eyes of a seller. So I've done this thousands of times. Would it be okay if I walk through the home? And believe me, it'll only take me about 5 minutes. I've done this thousands of times. What I don't want to do is I don't want to relinquish, and I'm not a control freak. It's just that I don't want to let them drive the ship. Early on in my career when I did this, has anybody ever gone on a listing presentation and that the seller says they want to show me the house? Anybody ever done that?
Yes.
Anybody ever spent an hour or an hour and a half looking at somebody's house? I bet some people have, because I have.
Maybe not quite that.
Yeah, but it's painful. It's a long time. They start telling you about every doorknob and every toilet they put in, and when they put the hardwood floors in, and when they put the kitchen sink in, and it gets a little too much. And that's like being a visitor. You're just making friends and hearing about people's houses. That's not the job of a professional salesperson. The reason I walk through the house, and I remember reading this, I think somewhere, is all I want to do is I want to confirm or deny what I think. I mean, there's only 3 qualities of houses. There's premium. That means this thing is perfect. There's good average condition, or there's, I call it wholesale, but that's sort of deferred maintenance. People did really bad work themselves and they thought they were craftsmen, and it's really a mess. But I'm trying to ascertain, is this what I think it is when I did my CMA and my comparables, or is it different than I think? Okay, that's the only reason I'm walking through the house. You're gonna laugh when I tell you this, I love people, I don't love houses. So when I'm walking through a house, I am looking to see what it looks like. Is it in good shape? Is it terrible? That kind of thing. Okay. So those are really the 3 things I focus on every listing appointment. And that's all I focus on is presentation, marketing, pricing, see the house. And then when we're done, answer any questions that I can about the process of selling your home. And then we'll decide if it makes sense to move forward. Just told you everything I do. You guys ready? Can you do it? Sure you can. So what I want to share first with you is, again, so I don't care if you're brand new in this business or you've been doing it for 30 years. You need a wall of value. What separates you from all the agents at Remax and Beard and Warner and ERA and Caldwell Banker? It's your wall of value as a salesperson, as a company. So I want you to think about, when I'm sharing this with you, I'm going to say the word wall of value, okay? And the reason I'm going to share this is because this is unique. And by the way, I'm going to tell you what my wall of value is, but it's not going to be yours because you have a different level of experience, might be more, less, the same, whatever, but you have to make it your own. So what I decided is when I started talking about presentation, I was e-commerce manager in corporate America before I got started in my own business. And what I learned is that people want to see what they want to see when they want to see it. And this applies more today in COVID than any other time in history. So I found this technology called Matterport. You guys may know it, but I always start with this because today, virtually everybody that buys a house starts looking online. You know that, it's somewhere in the high 90s, okay? So our job as a professional agent is to put your house on as many sites as possible. And by the way, you guys probably know this, but Keller Williams is on two to three times more sites than any other real estate company on the planet. And that includes the large ones. So anywhere somebody goes to look for a home, your house is going to be there. So that's really important to the sellers. And then second of all is what I found a long time ago, and this is what I share with sellers because this is my value proposition is, you know, I'm an amateur photographer and what I know about photography is that pictures make a house look too good and that looks really fantastic. And then you show up to the front of the house and there's junky cars in the neighborhood and every other house is a mess, but yours is nice. And they pull up in front and they leave, okay? Because the pictures are too good. And then the other problem is there's a lot of agents that don't want to spend a little bit of money to make money, and they don't spend money on professional photography. And their pictures are so bad that when people are searching for homes, they're clicking on a computer or an iPad or a phone, and they go right by your property, okay? So what I found and what works for me and my team is we found a technology that doesn't give you sort of what the house looks like. This is how I present every, can you guys see this okay? Yep. Let me go bigger here. Okay. So what I'm going to do with people, and I do this every listing presentation, and I use the same house. So I kind of know this house. The lady that owns this house works on our team, and we sold it in a week. So I know this house pretty well. But the thing that I always do with sellers is I say, this is how we're going to present your house that's different than most other agents. And by the way, this is a national statistics. 1% of the real estate agents in the country use this technology. Why? It's more expensive. Why do I use it? Because it gets 600% better reviews, sells houses in half the time, and makes people on average of 3 to 5% more money. Make sense? I'm building my wall of value. I'm telling people why to do business with me, okay? And then what I do is I show people that in today's world, people don't want to see what you're showing them. So right now, I'm going to give you a tour of this house really quickly. Okay. Now I'm controlling it on my computer. I'm not quite as good as my iPad, but I'm okay with it. But what I'm going to do is I'm moving this by myself right now, and I'm showing you the neighborhood. Okay. And then I'm showing you, well, I'm showing you my sign coming soon. So you can see by looking at the front of this house, okay, neighbors look pretty good, doesn't look too bad. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna bring you in the backyard because who knows, maybe you have dogs or kids or something like that. If I know, well, it's a fenced in yard. Keep the kids in, keep the dogs in. I always like the picture of that face on the tree. You guys see that? And then, you know, if you like to drink beer, you might sit by the fireplace and drink some beer right there. So like, by the way, think about what I'm doing here too. We started this business 3-4 years ago. Our business is up 10 times since COVID.
We have services of Western Medicine. This is Wanda. How can I help you?
Oh, whoever that is, can they mute themselves? And then what I do is I bring people in the house. Oops. I bring them in the house. And any of you haven't seen this technology, it's the real deal. And what I mean is, I'm not too good at this, but like it's so detailed. You see the cracks between the grout? Like this is the house. Like this is showing people exactly what they're looking for. Like the quality and condition. People spend 23 minutes looking at your house on this technology versus 2 or 3 on pictures, okay? And then the last thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna show them, hey, look, for tech people, this is gonna cut the ceilings off of the property. It's gonna show them the floor plan. If they don't like the floor plan, that's okay. Our job is to reach a lot of people with the marketing and advertising of your home. The people that like it, we want them to come in and feel it and confirm what they've already seen. And the people that don't like the floor plan or don't like the neighbors, we don't want them to come into your home because it takes you an hour to clean up and leave and all that other stuff. So again, I'm going to tell you this, and this is true. Like, the reason I use this technology, it cost me about, and I don't get a discount even though I own the company, it costs us about $250 to take professional still pictures and this video, compared to about $150. Okay. And what I found is by the time I go through what I'm doing differently to present your house in a more professional way and how to keep people out of your house during COVID, I call this a second showing, by the way. This is not the first showing. The first showing is electronic. The second is in person to confirm. So before I finish this with most sellers, I go, have you seen this with anybody else? And the answer is almost invariably no. Once in a while it's yes, but most of the time, 99% of the time exactly, it's no, I haven't seen this before. Do you see how this can help sell your home? And then also, I don't know if you've ever seen this before, it also shows a dollhouse view of the property, okay? Now, the reason I'm showing this to you is because, remember, I'm a professional salesperson. I have tech people that start jumping up and down. What would you do next if somebody got really excited about this? I'll tell you what I would do. I'd say, so you told me when we talked the other day on the phone that you think your house is worth 300,000. Ginger, I think you're right. Are you ready to move forward? Yep. I love what you're doing. I love the technology. I love how you're doing it. Let's go. I'm going to skip the marketing. I'm going to skip the whole pricing thing of showing them all the comps. If they're right, and I know they're right, we're ready to move forward if they're excited. So again, you don't want to jump the gun and ask for the order before you deserve. But I'm telling you, about 25, 30% of the time, when I'm through that one portion of the listing presentation and people are excited and going, this is fantastic, this is what I want, this is awesome, done. It's go time. It's pull out the contract. It's pull out the tax records that I have with me. It's time to fill out the contract and get moving forward. Okay. So step number one is presentation. And by the way, this is, oh, you know what I didn't share with you? This is something pretty kind of cool. So share this real quick. I'm giving you something that works for you today. Okay. And what I mean by this is, hang on, let me get this smaller, is this agent resource, this is a web page, okay? This is our web page. Today, if you in Edwardsville thought, hey, this is a good idea for me to get a listing, here is a wall of value that you can use today to get a listing without spending a dime, okay? So what we did is there's a small property, that's a condo. There's the house I just showed you. And then there's $1 million house. If you're in a listing presentation, today you could pull out your iPad, go to my website, because I do it. This is what I do on every listing presentation. I go to my website, I pull up one of the houses that looks most like the house I'm showing, and I show people. And if they go, I want that, well, awesome. You can find a Matterport vendor in Edwardsville, and you just listed the house without paying a dime. Okay? You guys get that? It makes sense? So if you want to, this is for you right now. And I don't know why I can't really see. Hold on. I can't see that. It's mmdigitalinc.com. Okay. mmdigitalinc.com. So you guys can check that out. But again, I just from coming from contribution, I want to tell you that that's there for you right now. You want to get familiar with it. You want to show it to people and say, we can do this for your property. The last time I checked, ready? People don't use technology that costs them money because they think it costs them money. My average commission is $6,500 per property. I'm spending an extra $100. They think it's a lot more, and it's not. That's my wall of value. I'm showing that I'm investing in presenting their house like other agents don't do it. Okay. So again, just there's a trick that I use, and It works really, really well. Second thing is marketing. And this is what separates the men from the boys and the girls from the women, because the average real estate agent in America markets with three things. They put it on the MLS, they put a sign in the front yard, and they pray that somebody shows up. Anybody heard that before? Is that a bold? I think that's Diana Kokoska says that, doesn't she? I think she does. And by and large, that is what most real estate agents do. They don't really have a marketing plan. So what I do is I actually put together a one-page marketing plan for every home I walk into. Now, they are pretty standard. One's for small, one's for medium, one's for large. But what I'm going to share with people is, hey, the reason I showed you that Matterport presentation first is that's how everybody starts their search. Now, by the way, who helps a buyer buy a house? A real estate agent. 99% of the time, people use buyer's agents. Why? They don't pay a commission, so to speak. So they're always working with a professional agent to find a home. So it's incumbent on me and my team to put in front of all the best agents in the area your property, because they're the people working with buyers, okay? So the reason I showed the pictures of the Matterport first is to tell them I'm going to put in front of all of the best agents in Chicagoland your property in a very professional way so that they can take a tour through it. And if they have a buyer, they will bring them forth, okay? That's my number one way of ascertaining buyers, believe it or not. It's through other real estate agents. I have a big database of real estate agents that we market out to. And then the second thing is we make a lot of phone calls. So anybody ever heard of cold database? Cold database is every phone number in America, cell and regular. If you're not on the do not call list, which most people are not, some people are, you're allowed to call them. So what I tell people is, and I don't tell them, we actually do it, is when we list your home, I'm going to put a dot on your property and I'm going to call all of your neighbors. And I'm going to ask them, who do they know from work, church, or family that's looking to move to the area? You can pick your own neighbors. You're not going to believe how many times people go, ooh, I work with this guy or this woman, and they're moving to town and they're looking for a home. We get their phone number and name and we call them. So I call this a little bit of old school, which is actually doing the work. We're just working on something now where one of our buyer's agents is going to start doing door hangers in the neighborhood, but for now we're calling. And then what we also have figured out is who knows the word predictive analytics? Anybody heard that word? So what we do, and by the way, if you're working with a tech person, everybody knows what this means. Predictive analytics means that predictively, every time you go on Facebook and you say, hey, I'm a real estate agent, or hey, I'm buying signs, or I just closed a house, boom, everybody in the world knows that you're a real estate agent and you're going to get ads targeted to you about things like Zillow leads or things that you shouldn't be doing. But you're going to get advertisements for what you're looking for. Same thing holds true on the back end of Facebook and other social media sites. Is they have a back end for realtors. You actually, for a very small amount of money, can buy ad space. And what that does is it predictively puts the house in front of people that statistically can buy the house. For example, somebody just got a job in Edwardsville and they live in Colorado. Woman's searching houses at night because that's what they do. And all of a sudden an ad pops out for your property in Edwardsville that happens to be the right amount of bedrooms for your kids, happens to be the right price point because they know how much money you make. And you get the ad put strategically in front of you to purchase the house. This is my wall of value that I use, okay? So I tell people I use old school technology and I use new school. And my job is to reach between 500,000 or more people with the advertising of your home and find the one person that will pay the most. So I'm not going to go through every single thing we do for marketing, but we do brochures and we all kinds of things that traditional agents do. But I want you to think about what your wall of value is on the listing presentation. What are you doing that is the same and or different than every other agent? And don't tell me that you're putting a sign in the front yard and putting it on the MLS. That doesn't sell houses. Well, It does sell houses. The average agent in America sells 4 to 5 houses a year. That is what it does for you. If you want to get into bigger numbers, you have to do a lot more than just putting things on the MLS. Okay?
Hey, Matt.
Yep.
We're not able to see you.
Oh, you're not?
No, you're like all black. It's like a
Okay.
big black square.
Oh, yeah. See what's going on. Yeah.
There you, well, I see your picture now.
Yeah, okay, here we go. Hold on. Is that better?
There you are. You're back.
I don't know what happened there. Sorry about that. How long was that for? Like the last hour?
No.
No, after you got done showing us I didn't want to interrupt. You were on a roll, so I was waiting.
You can interrupt me anytime. All right, so I'm always going to hit the key points every time I go on a listing presentation. You're not going to get me off my game. I don't care what you ask me. I'm going to get back to what I want to talk about because don't let people run your listing presentation because it'll happen very quickly. You have to have a plan walking in, and you have to execute your plan, and you have to know your process so well that when you do get taken off, you can be very natural. You can take a little sideline and talk about their kids or talk about their work or talk about something else, but don't forget you're going back to where you left off, okay? Because this is a process that you have to perfect every time that you do it. Because it's like swinging a golf club. If you swing it differently every time, you're going to get different results. So what you have to do is you have to find a groove with your listing presentation. So you do the same thing over and over. And when you don't get what you want and it's not being received well, then look for some other solution. But when things work and you have a good process, the only problem you have then is you have to give it more, right? You just need to give it to more people. So again, step number 1, presentation. Step number 2, marketing. Step number 3, pricing. Okay, so what I do on pricing, and I do it every single time, and I hope I can, let me see if I can share the screen and get this real quick. Let's see if I can get this. Can you guys see this okay?
Yes.
Yep, okay. Every single time. So again, this is a trick my mom taught me. Ready? You're gonna love this. She goes, don't ever tell a seller what you think their house is worth. That's what rookies do. Show them what the real world is showing them and is seeing, and then let them come up with the number. And if there happen to be very wrong, then you need to have a conversation. But a lot of times people will zone right in on the work. So in terms of pricing, what I tell everybody is, hey, this is a job where people are going to sit with a buyer's agent and they're going to do exactly what you and I are going to do right now. They're going to look at all of the comparables. And by the way, Fannie Mae taught me this, and you guys may or may not know this, but appraisers are taught a comparable is a half a mile around the house and 6 months or less. If you can't find a half a mile, you go bigger. Try to stay in the school district. You can't, you go bigger. You can't find 6 months, you go 12 months. In most situations, like in this one I'm going to show you real quick, it's super easy. It's a neighborhood, lots of houses selling or sold and bought. And by the way, this is a listing I went on last week, and I listed it on the spot. And I'll tell you how it went. But so I use, again, everybody uses a lot of things. There is no right or wrong answer here, but all I'm telling you is understand what you're using and know it really well so that you're very comfortable showing it to people. Don't be clunky in front of people. It's hard for me on the computer because I'm used to having, so it's a good time to stop and tell you this. So when I tell you about my process of a listing, I always am sitting in the neighborhood 10 to 15 minutes before the listing presentation starts. Always. I am never late, because if I am, I'm a little scattered, okay? So I'm sitting in the neighborhood. I'm pulling up this comparables. I'm pulling up my Matterport. I'm pulling up anything I want to show them. And I have it loaded on my iPad, so when I walk in, it's right there. I'm not fumbling around looking for things because I want them to know, like, wow, this guy's got a good process. So, and by the way, when I'm in the car, because you can't remember everything, I pull out my green sheet. I look at my notes. I see what's important to them. what their motivation is, what they're looking for in an agent, and I make sure that I'm really mindful of what's happening. And what I will tell you is I don't care what else is going on in my world. When I'm on a listing presentation, I owe people 100% of my effort. And by the way, I'm there for 1 hour. That in my mind, I'm 1 hour. I'm not going to be there for 2 hours. I'm not going to be there for 20 minutes. I'm going to be there for 1 hour. I relax, I take a big breath, and I'm like, I'm going to do the very best I can, and I'm going to hit the baseball today. Like, that's what I'm doing here. I'm going to hit this one, and I'm going to be really, really good. I don't care if a deal just blew up. I don't care. I'm going to segment, and I'm going to be really good on this appointment because that's what they've asked me to do. So, make sense? So I'm giving you a little thought process before. So the last piece of the listing presentation is, okay, so you've seen the presentation, you've seen the marketing. Now let's talk about pricing. So I use Cloud CMA and I use Michael Lewis Marketing, which I'm not going to say it's great or not great, but it's what I've been using for years. I'm very comfortable with it. So this takes me, I don't know, 20, 30 minutes to get ready. And I usually skip the intro stuff because I've already kind of told people who I am and what I do. And then I share with people because most people you think understand real estate, they don't. This is how people value properties. I can sell it for whatever I want, but if the appraiser comes in and doesn't see the value, they're not going to get a loan. So we have to be within a range, and the range goes. Can you see me okay from there? Is my picture showing up or no? Yeah. Okay.
Yes, good.
Okay, again, I can't see it. So the range is, and I studied negotiations in corporate America for a lot of years. The minimum is what the buyer wants to pay for it. The max is what the market will allow. My job as a professional is to get you on top of the range, Mr. Seller, and that's exactly what we're going to do. So, but what we have to do is we have to ascertain what the range is, because if we're outside the range, I can walk on water and I can wear slippers, but I'm not going to sell your home. Okay, doesn't matter what I do to market and present it. So we're going to take a look. We're going to do it the same way an appraiser does it. Okay, we're going to look at everything that's sold in the neighborhood. Now look at all the orange dots. They're all data points. Now, you know what I call those? Orange, I call that reality. That's what people actually paid for a home. That establishes value. The green and the pending, we don't know what they're going to sell their house for. It's just what they're asking. So don't get excited about what people ask for their homes. Get really mindful of what people paid for houses that are similar to yours. And what we're going to do is we're going to take a look through here, just like a buyer does. And we're going to see what people paid. Let me move this a little bit. What people paid for houses in your neighborhood. Okay. Again, S, sold, reality. Look at the range, 239, 244, 239, 236, 217. By the way, the house we were looking at this is the house we listed. Do you see a problem, folks? Like, does it jump out at you? They're all in the 217, 230s, and you're in the 250 range. I'm not saying that to the seller because I want them to figure this out themselves, not me say it, because they'll be offended or could be offended. But what we're going to do is we're going to say, okay, so let's take a look at. And by the way, I discriminate a lot when I do comparables, and you should too. Everything that I pull up are all 2 bedrooms. They're all 2 baths. They're exactly like yours. And they're all right around the 1,500 square foot mark. Why? Number 1 indicator of value is square footage. Second is bedrooms and bathrooms. Third is quality and condition. So I'm going to do this just like the appraiser is going to do it, just like the buyer is going to do it. So we're going to take a look. And then, by the way, you see on the first one, I don't know if you guys have seen this. This is really interesting. There's a chart that Keller Williams has that shows weeks on the market and percentages of what sells in that week. Has anybody ever seen that? I pull it out 100% of the time. And see, I don't think I have it here. No, I don't. But really what it says is, and I tell people, like, look at this home. It sold in 26 days. So as I just showed you on the chart, in the first 2 weeks, 87% of the people looking for a home like this see your house. 87%, almost 90% of the people see it in 2 weeks. The second 2 weeks of the month, the 13% of the people that are a little bit late to the game see your property. After 4 weeks of being on the market, this is the stat that you have to get your head around. If you don't get 1 or 2 showings per week, If you don't get an offer after 4 weeks on the market, you have a 95% chance of not getting an offer if something doesn't change. Now, I tell people always on the listing presentation, 100% of the time, I'll say this every time. So if we don't get 1 or 2 showings a week, if we don't get an offer after 4 weeks, we have 3 choices. 1, we have to improve the quality of the property to meet market expectation. That means paint, carpet, kitchens, baths, whatever that means. The second is we have to improve the price to meet market expectation. And the third is we'll act like an ostrich and put our head in the sand and pretend like this isn't happening, and we'll have a 5% chance of selling your home. So again, what I want to do is, again, this is a strong recommendation, and everybody has a different approach. I don't want to tell somebody what their house is going to sell for, because I will be wrong, just like all of you will be wrong, just like the seller is going to be wrong. What I want to do is I want to set the tone that I'm going to reach the most amount of people and do it in the most professional way. And then what I'm going to do is we're going to let the market tell us where we're at. We're going to know real quick. In 2 weeks, we're going to talk. If we don't have any showings, if we have crickets, we have a problem. We have to have a conversation. If we're getting the showings, lots of showings, and nobody's making offers, we have an issue. I want to set the tone so that people understand up front that this is not a listing I'm going to take for 6 months and we're not going to talk about it, and it's going to go on the market for a price and then we're going to leave it there for 6 months, because that's not a professional salesperson. That's what amateurs do. They're afraid to tell people the truth. If I will tell you one thing that I'm good at, is I will tell people the truth. They don't always like it, but I'll do it, and it generally works out pretty well. So 26 days on the market, it must have been priced right. 239. And then what we do is we go through the house. I'm not going to go through every single one, but what I'm going to tell you is, like, look at this house at 239. It's got, it's got what it has. Like, I'm not going to go through houses because it bores me, but you can get an idea of general condition and quality. And then you're going to see this house sold at 244 in 2 days. Oh, look at that. And by the way, people's feelings get hurt when people sell their houses for more than theirs is worth. I have this thing that I say all the time to people. I go, look at this one right here, Mr. Seller. Good news for them. They got 244. You want to hear the bad news? That's about a $25,000 upgrade in their kitchen. So when they sell their house, what they net is going to be considerably less than yours. That should make you feel really good, even though they're selling their house for more money. You have to explain why prices in the market go higher and lower. It's because of quality and condition. And they have to understand that it's not a bad thing that they sell theirs for 235 when this sold for 244, and they didn't put 25,000 into a kitchen. It's a good thing. And they have to be taught that, and they have to see that. This one sold for 239. They had to drop the price a bunch of times. They started up at 260, and oops, after they got right, they sold it for 239. Starting to see a trend, you guys. And then I'm going to skip just because it's we don't need to go through every detail. This one sold 236. This one, somebody had a quick sale at 217. And then let me see, I think I want to get to pending 244. Again, same situation. They put some money into their house that you didn't, which is good for them, not good for their pocketbook. And then this is your property, 249. And if you notice, look at the kitchen. Remember, it looks like the first one I showed you? 249, everything's selling at 236. I looked at Elaine, I said, Elaine, I said, you have a very nice home. It's well maintained. Here's your competition at 239. What do you think we should put your house on the market for? She said, Matt, I think we should start at 239 and then we'll move it in 2 weeks if we don't get what we want. I said, I couldn't agree more with you. Let's put it at 239. The market's tight. In 2 weeks, if we don't have 1 or 2 showings a week, if we don't have significant interest, we'll make an adjustment. And I pulled out the contract and we signed it. Okay. Again, I don't usually show people this. Well, no, I show people this. I'll say, well, here's, all the sold listings, 5. Here's the range. That's the average. Number one indicator of value is price per square foot.
Hey, Matt, can I ask a question?
Yep.
I see you've got a good mix of active listings, a couple canceled, I think there was a contingent on there.
Yep.
Is there a formula that you find to be good that you want to include a little of each, or how do you determine that?
Yeah, the only thing I was taught, and this is what appraisers have to do, Rick, is they have to have 3 sold and 3 actives. Like Fannie Mae did that to me all the time. I kind of use that as a baseline, but it also, it also matters too, the story you're trying to tell, because a lot of times, depending on what market we're in, if we're in an upward market, it's one set of comps. If it's in a downward market, it could be another set. It all depends. But my main go-to, Rick, is recent sold comparables. To me, that is the gospel, and that's what the appraisers are going to value off of. They're not going to value off of this guy's asking that or this one's pending, because they don't know the sale price. So
I like the fact that you threw a canceled in there. I normally don't do that, but that was also one of the highest priced ones, which could indicate that, listen, this was out of the price range and thus ended up as canceled.
Well, it was her house, by the way.
Oh, that was the one you relisted.
Yeah, that was the canceled listing I went after. That.
And what did you list it for?
239.
Okay.
Yep, and she was at 249, and there's only one other property that was for sale, and it's under contract now, and we had 4 showings the first week that we just put it on. So we're in the ballpark. But I told her, if we don't have an offer, within 2-3 weeks, we have to make an adjustment. So again, what I don't do, and this is just my style, your style can be different, but I don't go in as the expert. I go in as the expert on how to present and market and reach as many people as possible. I don't go in as the expert saying your house will sell for this, because you will be wrong. So I always defer and say the market decides what your house sells for. You don't, and I don't. You decide who you choose to market your home based on who's going to do the best job and who's going to reach the most people. And then once they get somebody who's got a track record of getting things to the closing line, and we certainly do. And that's it. I mean, that is, in essence, that is my listing presentation. And I'm going to tell you that I said it to Elaine, and I felt like I'm there right now when I said it. She's an older lady. She is moving to another state to be close to 3 of her grandkids and 2 of her children. And I knew that her motivation was a 10. And I knew the last agent didn't do some things that she wanted them to do that were just reasonable, like take decent pictures and do something to market her house. And so I knew when I was halfway through it that I had this, and she was a charming lady. And I go, are you ready to move forward, Elaine, and get your house on the market and move to Arkansas? And she goes, yep, I'm ready to go. So what do? I always have, by the way, 2 things I have with me always. And by the way, it only took me 5 years to figure this out at KW. So don't make the same mistake I did. Is I pull out the listing agreement with the tax records and I confirm her full legal name, and I go through it. I don't fill it out, and it takes me 30 seconds it takes me 3 minutes to fill out an Illinois state contract. They're easy. Do you guys use the same 7.0? Yeah, okay. Fill in the blank. Oh, by the way, another little trick that I use. Ready for this? I sold over 1,000 houses. I still do it every single time. I take the 7.0, my managing broker laughs at me. I have my assistant highlight in yellow everywhere that they have to sign. Everywhere. If it's 2 people on title or on the mortgage, I have 2. If it's 1 person that owns it by themselves, I have 1. Because what I don't want is I don't want to sit with somebody and make a mistake on a contract. It's just not possible, because I did tell you I'm a high C, right? Everything's got to be right. So I'm the only guy in the office that's never made a mistake on a contract. Why? Because I do paint by numbers. I highlight where they have to initial. I even have a process that goes this far. You're gonna laugh. If there's a husband and a wife, I say, who wants to sign first? Because I don't want to be a sexist and assume that the husband or the wife. So they go, oh, he will or she will. Okay, great. So the way I like to do this is I like to go through the contract with you first. And then once we're done, I'll go through every same page in line with you. I said, by the way, this is a really important contract. So if I could ask any questions you have, wait until we're all done signing both people. Because I'm going to tell you, this happens all the time. You sign with the husband or the wife, and then you pull the contract over for the other person. The person that already signed gets so excited, they want to know what the next step is. They want to know what the next step is. And all of a sudden, if you're not paying attention, you can mess up a contract real fast. So I actually go so far as to go, no, I have a process for this. I go with one person, we sign with the other person, and then I tell them, hey, the good news is, when we're done, I have another form. Here it is. And it's the next steps to list your house. And we're going to go through everything in detail when we're done. Again, I'm not trying to be like a real control freak. It's just that I have a process and I follow it every time. And it minimizes mistakes and errors. Okay. So we go through it, we sign. And then the next thing is, I have a next steps, and I have a philosophy in real estate that every time you talk to a client, you talk about the next steps, because we do it every day. They never do it. So they are not sure. And I show them, like I have a book that I carry with me. I call it my Linus book. It's got a lot of detail. I show them, here are all the steps we take to list your house. Here are all the steps we do to close your house. I'm not going to tell you all at one time because it'll be overwhelming. We're just going to, every time I talk to you, we're going to talk about the next steps. So the next steps are, do you have a key for your house? Like, I have it memorized. Are you going to do any other work before we put it on the market? What is the date to have it on the market? What's the date for our photographer, videographer to come in and do his work? And do you need any help with anything to get done before the house goes on the market? Nope, nope, nope. So I grab everything, throw the lockbox on the front door, bring back the contract with the next steps. And again, some of you are single agents. That's how I started. Now I have an admin. So I told you the number one thing, what's my number one job? Is to list houses, right? Do you think I'm good at paperwork? I'm pretty good because I'm a high C, but it's not a really good use of my time. So what I do is I bring the contract in and I have the next steps and I give it to my EA, my executive assistant. I say, we're listing this house and let's go through the details. And in 2 minutes, we go through all the details. She sends the welcome letter. She sends a survey about everything they love about the house. Hey, what's up, dude? And she kicks it off and I'm on to the next listing because that's my job, to negotiate deals and to sell homes. It's not to put them on the MLS and to be creative with the pictures and everything else, because I'm not very good at that. So again, that goes back to, in the beginning, I did it all myself. I put hundreds of properties on the MLS and sorted pictures and all that kind of stuff and wrote lame descriptions, but I'm not very good at it. And then fortunately, we sold enough that I can have somebody else that's way better at it than me take care of that. So that is my process of listing properties. And I will answer any questions that I didn't address to anybody that's on the call.
Hey, Matt, on your team, do you also do all the contract negotiations on your listings? Yes.
So eventually I'm not going to, Ginger, but right now I do. So right now, and by the way, this is interesting too about listing houses. So when I owned a manufacturing plant, I invited a lot of customers to come see us in our plant. 100% of the people bought from us when I brought them in the plant. I do the same thing in real estate. So I'm just visualizing something that I do, Ginger, every time I bring a guest in. And by the way, everybody that has walked into Keller Williams's office that was thinking about hiring our team, 100% of the people listed with us after they saw that we're well organized and we have a good group of people. But what I tell them is, this is how our process works. Sarah does this and does all the listing input, does everything creative. Once we have an offer, comes back to me because I have a lot of experience in negotiations. I negotiate the sale of the property. And once it's done, then it goes over to contract to close, and they take care of all of these functions that are required to close the property. So I always jump in at the things that I think are most important, Ginger, is obviously getting the listing. Nothing happens without that. Negotiating the terms of the sale, that's super important. And then also, I have an attorney that does a lot of work for us, and they negotiate about 70% of the inspection issues. And If they can't, then I get involved with that. But that's all I want to get involved with.
Anybody else have questions for Matt?
Hi, I have a question.
Mhm.
Hi, my name is Laura. Have you ever been in the scenario where you are attempting to walk the property on your own? You know, you've done your spiel at the table and you've told them that you just want 5 minutes and they insist on going with you. How would you handle that?
Yeah, what I do have done is I said, you know what? I understand what you want to do, and I have good news. Once we decide to work together, I will walk the property with you, or you can tell me everything that you love about the property. But unfortunately, you're not going to be here to show it to a buyer. So I have to do what the buyer's going to do, and I have to see it through their eyes. So not that I don't want you to tell me everything about the house. We actually send out a survey that allows you to tell us every detail about the home, everything you love about the house in detail. And we do want to know that if we market your home. But for this process, I need to see it through the buyer's eyes. And I think I've had 1 or 2 times when they just were like, well, I'm just not comfortable you walking through the house by yourself. I go, okay, would you do me a favor? Would you just allow me to see it through the buyer's eyes, and then we'll talk about it when we get back to the table? The only thing you can't do is, I'm telling you, once you sort of go off of that and go, yeah, give me a tour of your house, I want to see it. See how that works out for you. You will waste countless hours, weeks, and months of your life that you can never get back. And it doesn't help you sell the house, I promise you.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Anybody else? Now is the time. All right.
Matt, thank you so much for spending this hour and a half with us. If anybody has any referrals, you know his name. What areas do you service of Chicago?
Yeah, so I service the entire suburbs. And what I mean by that is I'll go north up to Palatine and Barrington. I'll go west to DeKalb and out in the country. I'll go south down to Homer Glen and Palos. I do not work in the city. I just don't understand it. It's not my market. So we have people that about an hour away from where we're at, Ginger. So we go pretty far south and north. And by the way, that always surprises me. It's funny you asked that question, because I have a lot of people in our office that go, I'm not going to drive 40 minutes. And I go, what? Like, I used to, when I was in the metals industry, my territory was North America. So I used to have to fly to Vancouver to sell metal products. And that was like, you know, a day of travel and thousands of dollars of travel expense. And I'm thinking, you wouldn't drive 40 minutes to make a commission of 6 to, well, whatever it is, 3 to 6,000, whatever it is.
Right, you only got to go there once.
Yep. And by the way, I want to share one other thing with you. In the days of COVID, I have listed about 30 houses over Zoom. Do not be afraid of Zoom on the listing presentation. What I'll do is I'll get it set up just the way I want it. Obviously, I'm going through my process. I can do it just as well for my house in Charleston, South Carolina, as I can in my basement, as I can at my office at Keller Williams. So you guys have to get comfortable with the new technology. I mean, I'm an old guy and I'm getting used to it. So most of you are younger than me. So get used to it. Practice your presentation on Zoom. Think about the amount of time it'll save you from driving there and driving back. It's amazing. And with .loop and DocuSign, everything else, 30. And by the way, you know what my real goal is, Ginger?
What's that?
I want to list a lot of houses and I don't even want to walk in them.
Mm-hmm.
Because
When you did them via Zoom, did you have them walk around and show you the property?
yeah, you know, a lot of my strategy, Ginger, is when I first came with Keller Williams, I was in Boulder and I saw Diana Kokoska up on the screen, and there was 200 people in the room, and honestly, she only spoke to me. That's all she spoke to, because I never sold a residential property. And she said, you know, I went after canceled and expired listings. And I went, half the people in this world fail with the first agent. And All I have to do is find those people and be more professional and have a plan that's better than their first agent. That's all I have to do. And so a big strategy I have, Ginger, is to go after canceled, expired listings. So I have the luxury of having some sort of visibility into the property.
True.
But if I don't, then yes, I'll have them put me on their phone or their iPad and walk me through the house quickly.
Right.
Quickly. But I'm telling you, it's a lot more effective than I thought it was. That is getting a listing on. I think we closed on 2 properties this week that I've never met the person in person, and I've never seen their house in person. But the last thing I will share with you guys, and this is, it sounds really kind of crazy, but the only way to make a lot of money in real estate is to sell a lot of houses. Okay? It sounds silly. So whatever you do every day, don't focus your time on filling the allotted hours. Do the top one thing that will make everything else unneeded and unnecessary. And I promise you, that is having a good listing presentation, going on as many as you can, listing as many as you possibly can, and then getting them closed. And everything else will just take care of itself. People will show up to help you. Buyers agents will show up that want to be on your team. Like it all works in the right direction, but a lot of people fool themselves. I think everything is equally important in real estate. It's not. Working on your brochure, working on your website doesn't make you any money. It might be little fill-in work, it's probably better work for agent services or somebody that's good at it, because most of us are not. But I'm just, the best advice I can give you is go to work every day. I mean, our bold coach told us that. And then one last thing that I know this isn't really applicable because of COVID, but what I noticed, looks like I'm stuck here. The thing that struck me the most when I got into real estate and I didn't sell a house for 8 months is I looked at the managing broker that owned the office, and I said, you know, I have an epiphany. And she goes, what's that? I said, people that go to work every day sell the most houses. And she goes, yeah, you're right. There's 4 people here and they're here every day. And I go, well, so am I. And I show up at the office non-COVID every day, and because it's my job. And just think about that, because a lot of people pretend like they can work from anywhere at any time while their kids are jumping up and down and their dogs are calling them and a project's calling them. This is a job. You just got to show up every day and you'll sell a lot of houses, I promise.
Well, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. I can see a lot of comments, people thanking you.
No problem. Hey, I was glad to be with all of you today. Have a great 2021. If there's anything I can do for you, mattgrander@gmail.com is the easiest one.
Thank you,
No
Matt.
basis. Take care.
Thank you,
Bye.
Matt.
Bye.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one.